What do Harry Potter, Dorothy, and I have in common? In our own ways, we followed a path known in the literary world as the hero's journey. Whether it was suburban England or Kansas or my comfortable life as a teaching artist in public schools around New Mexico, we all began our journeys in a place that we knew and understood. So you may know their stories and the events that propelled them out of their known worlds. For me, it was my first day at Los Puentes Charter High School. I went there not as a teaching artist, but to help my brother-in-law install a network of computers there. And in the bright sunshine of the sunny summer day, the last thing I expected to see was crime scene tape. But there it was, blocking my entrance to the parking lot. This bright yellow contrasted the drab gray of that asphalt campus was just enough to make my heart sink. This was a school for kids who had been dealt a lousy hand. Their past was riddled with violence, abandonment, murder, and incarceration. Some of the students lived in residential treatment facilities, others had family ties to gangs. The previous night's deadly shooting by a gang member and former student who lived across the street from the school had resulted in the revenge shooting of his little brother, a young boy who lay bleeding in his father's arms in front of the house next door to the school. Although it was hard for me to comprehend how a brutal act of this magnitude could happen within any school environment, I was mostly astounded by the principal's reaction. She was not the least bit surprised. She was sad, but not surprised. The shooter's father was a gang member. His young brother was a gang member. Gang culture had just caught this school in its wake. In my work, I help students to write, produce, and compose original operas. Now, this was not a school that one would readily associate with opera. Opera is a multidisciplinary art form, and it allows students to explore other subjects and find their voice. The hero's journey is just this powerful tool for providing understanding that conflict and struggle are universal. In the words of American mythologist Joseph Campbell, where you stumble, there lies your treasure, right? When you create a character, you have to be able to honestly conceptualize a different perspective. So here was the potential for students at Los Puentes to see a different path. When I told my colleagues in education at the Santa Fe Opera, they jumped at the chance to sponsor a residency. Funding was scraped together, a composer was hired, and a partnership was born. Recruiting participants turned out to be one of my biggest challenges. As the composer and I sort of trudged from portable to portable classroom, everyone, students, staff, even the teachers looked at us like we were the flying monkeys. At the end of the day, we had exactly 4 students who had answered the call to adventure that signaled the start of their journey. All 4 were girls, and all 4 lived in residential treatment facilities. Their known world was very different from mine, and mine very different from theirs. Participating in this program would be an exciting and very unusual adventure for us all. So together we navigated the challenges. They faced self-doubt, heartbreaking personal stories, and a perceived lack of understanding from the community. In my darkest moments, I doubted my training, and I doubted this process could do anything to help these girls. But as the opera they wrote took shape, we faced our fears together. They decided to use the opera to tell their own personal stories. So one by one, they sang about overcoming their struggles with abuse, mental illness, and the sudden loss of parents. And when it was time for their performance, they stepped out from the shadows and into the stage lights. And in that moment, I saw the true meaning of transformation. They were beautiful. One remarkable piece was called In Grandmother's Arms. It was a song of thanks that Taryn had written for her grandmother, who sat in the front row of the audience that night. Taryn looked right at her and sang to her, not about how slighted or about how abandoned she felt, but of gratitude and comfort and appreciation. That was 7 years ago. Today we have about 50 students auditioning for only 20 spots. In this time, I've seen countless students transformed by this process. And their stories continue to move and transform me because their effort to forge new paths is heartwarming. Some of the operas they've written, Bird's Eye View, told the story of a young man who rejected his family's request that he join them in their bank robbing endeavors. I still remember his line, "But Granny, I want to be an architect. I don't want to rob banks, I want to build them." One of them was called The Criminal Factory, and it was about a group of kids who disarmed this giant machine that turns everyone into a criminal. One year, the students picked a hero who was suicidal. I asked the student who thought of the idea why. Why is he suicidal? He doesn't know, he just is. That year, the opera was about a terribly lonely writer who wrote himself a beautiful companion, and then he met her in real life and fell in love with her, only to realize that she had written him and was about to delete him. That year, the hero's worst enemy was the hero himself. Now, in its 7th year, the Los Puentes Opera Project has become a school-wide initiative, driven, in fact, by the school's English department. Now they teach every student in the school the hero's journey. And every student in the school has workshops with Santa Fe Opera composers. So through art, the school community, the staff, the students, the teachers, the artists, we've all been transformed. Now, have all the problems disappeared? No. But students are building something. They take ownership of their work and they connect to it in a way that is absolutely personal. And I'm still in touch with 3 of the 4 girls from that first year. Let's see, Kelly is a new mom. Taryn is on the board of directors at Los Puentes. And Lauren is the founder of a nonprofit advocacy group for foster kids. And they're here in the audience tonight. Can you say hi? There they are. They will tell you, none of us is free from struggle. Let's just face the future with thoughtfulness, resolution, and music.